You'll be clearing tables like him, Marcus said, pointing his fork at the teenage busboy struggling with a tray of dishes near our private dining room entrance. That's your son's future, Elena. Minimum wage. No prospects. Just like his mother. The private dining room erupted in laughter. My sister Jennifer threw her head back, wine sloshing dangerously in her glass. Her husband, Marcus, leaned back in his chair, that familiar smirk plastered across his face, clearly pleased with his own wit. My mother dabbed her eyes with her linen napkin, actually crying from laughter at her grandson's supposed destiny. Tom's wife, Amanda, covered her mouth, trying to hide her smile and failing. Marcus, stop, Jennifer managed between giggles, but she was grinning. You're terrible. My son David, 12 years old, sat beside me with his book open. He didn't look up. He'd learned years ago not to react to his aunt and uncle's comments. I reached under the table and squeezed his hand once. He squeezed back. I'm serious though, Marcus continued, gesturing around the upscale restaurant. The kid barely passes his classes. What else is he going to do? At least food service is honest work. My brother Tom nodded from across the table. Marcus has a point. Not everyone can be successful. Someone has to do the grunt work. This was supposed to be my father's 70th birthday dinner. Dad sat at the head of the table, uncomfortable but silent. He never intervened. Never had. Elena, you should really consider his future realistically, my mother added, her tone dripping with concern that fooled no one. Maybe a trade school? Something practical for his limitations. David's limitations. My son, who read college-level philosophy texts for fun. Who taught himself 3 languages from library books. Whose limitations included being too quiet, too thoughtful, too unlike the loud, flashy grandchildren my mother preferred. I think David will be just fine, I said quietly. Oh, Elena. Jennifer rolled her eyes. You always say that. But look at you. Still renting that tiny apartment. Still working that little bookkeeping job. No offense, but the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Marcus leaned forward, warming to his subject. He'd had 3 glasses of wine. You know what your problem is, Elena? No ambition. You're content being mediocre, and now you're raising David to be the same way. I'm happy with our life, I said. Happy. Tom snorted. That's what unsuccessful people say when they've given up. The waiter appeared to take our orders. Marcus ordered the most expensive steak on the menu. Jennifer got the lobster. Tom ordered for both himself and his wife without asking her preference. My mother requested the prix-fixe menu with wine pairings. What about you, David? The waiter asked kindly. The chicken, please, David said quietly. Thank you. The chicken, Marcus repeated mockingly after the waiter left. Even orders like someone who's given up. At his age I was. We know, Marcus, I interrupted. You've told us many times. His eyes narrowed. Excuse me. I said we know. You were exceptional at 12. Star athlete. Perfect grades. President of everything. We've heard it all before. Jennifer's smile vanished. There's no need to be rude, Elena. I wasn't being rude. I was being accurate. This is exactly your problem, Marcus said, his voice rising. No respect. No understanding of success. Look at this restaurant. This is where successful people eat. This is the world David will never be part of because you're raising him to be a failure. I opened my laptop bag and pulled out my computer. Set it on the table. What are you doing? Jennifer asked sharply. Checking something, I said, opening the screen. I pulled up a folder. You mentioned this restaurant. Dominic's. It's lovely, isn't it? It's where people with standards dine, Marcus said. Not that you'd understand the difference. I clicked through several files. The ambience is excellent. The service is impeccable. The revenue figures are outstanding. Tom frowned. What are you talking about? The quarterly reports, I said, turning the screen slightly. Dominic's flagship location grossed $2.3 million last quarter. The suburban locations average $1.1 million each. Quite impressive for a regional chain. Marcus stared at me. How do you know that? Because I own it. Kept my voice level. Come. I own all 7 Dominic's locations. Purchased the chain 18 months ago through my investment firm. The table went silent. You're lying, Jennifer said, but her voice wavered. I clicked to another document. This is the acquisition agreement. A $47 million total purchase price. And this, I pulled up another file, is the current portfolio valuation. The chain is now worth $61 million. My mother's face had gone pale. That's impossible. It's documented, I said. I can have my attorney send you copies if you'd like. Marcus's wine glass was frozen halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. You don't have that kind of money. I do actually. I pulled up my investment portfolio summary. The restaurant chain is just one asset. There's also the commercial real estate holdings, 6 office buildings, 2 mixed-use developments. The equity portfolio spread across technology, healthcare, and sustainable energy sectors. The private investments in 3 tech startups, 2 of which are preparing for acquisition. Total assets under management, approximately $340 million. This is a joke, Tom said, but he was leaning forward, trying to see the screen. It's not a joke. I turned the laptop so they could all see. My bookkeeping job, as Jennifer called it, is actually a private wealth management firm. I have 17 clients. I manage their investments and acquisitions. The small apartment David and I live in? I own the building. All 42 units. Jennifer's hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. You were too busy explaining my failures. The door to our private dining room opened. The restaurant manager entered, a woman in her 40s with a professional smile and an expensive-looking tablet in her hands. Good evening. I'm Claire Morrison, General Manager. I wanted to personally ensure that everything is satisfactory for Ms. Vega's party this evening. The kitchen staff asked me to convey that they're honored to be preparing your father's birthday dinner. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Ms. Vega. Claire smiled at me. Of course, Ms. Vega. We're honored to host you this evening. The staff has been instructed to provide exceptional service. Is there anything you need? Everything is perfect, Claire. Thank you. Wonderful. Please don't hesitate to call if you need anything at all. She nodded to the table and left. My mother found her voice. Elena, I don't understand. If you have all this money, why do you live the way you do? What way, Mom? Quietly. Modestly. I like our apartment. David likes his school. We don't need to prove anything to anyone. But you let us think, Jennifer started. I let you think what you wanted to think, I said. You decided I was a failure. You decided David had no future. I never confirmed or denied anything. I just lived my life. Tom was staring at his plate. All this time, I agreed. Every family dinner. Every Christmas. Every comment about my limitations, my poor choices, my disappointing life. I sat there and listened. Marcus cleared his throat. Look, Elena, if I said anything that seemed cruel? I asked. That seemed designed to humiliate me and my son? You didn't seem cruel, Marcus. You were cruel. All of you were. The waiter returned with appetizers. The table remained silent as plates were distributed. I want you to understand something, I continued once the waiter left. David doesn't have limitations. He has interests that don't match your definition of success. He reads philosophy because he loves thinking about complex ideas. He's quiet because he's thoughtful. And his future? He'll be absolutely fine. Elena, we're family, my mother said weakly. Surely we can. We can what? Pretend the last 12 years didn't happen? Pretend you didn't compare David to his cousins at every opportunity? Pretend Marcus didn't just tell my son his future was clearing tables. Jennifer was crying now, mascara running. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. You were comfortable with your assumptions. It made you feel superior. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it. Excuse me for a moment. I stepped out of the private room and called my attorney. Martin, I need you to prepare something for me. A breakdown of the Dominic's acquisition, the current holdings, and a summary of the operating agreements. Yes, tonight. Email it to me within the hour. Thanks. When I returned, my father was finally speaking. Elena, I had no idea you were doing so well. I know, Dad. You never asked either. He winced. The main courses arrived. No one seemed to have much appetite. Marcus cut his steak mechanically. Jennifer pushed the lobster around her plate. My mother hadn't touched her food. David was eating his chicken, still reading his book. What are you reading, sweetheart? I asked. He showed me the cover. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's about stoicism and how to deal with adversity. I smiled. And what do you think? I think it's interesting. He says we can't control what other people think or say about us. We can only control how we respond. That's very wise. Marcus set down his fork. Elena, I apologize. I was out of line. You were. I didn't realize that I was successful. That should not have mattered, Marcus. Even if I was exactly what you thought I was, a struggling single mother working a modest job, that wouldn't have given you the right to mock my son. You're right. I know I am. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at the email from Martin. Perfect. I pulled it up on my laptop and turned the screen toward the table. This is the complete documentation of my ownership of this restaurant chain. This section here details the management structure. Claire Morrison reports directly to my chief operating officer. The staff you see working tonight? I signed their paychecks. The menu you ordered from? I approved those prices. Tom had gone very quiet. That busboy Marcus pointed at? I continued. His name is Jason. He's working his way through community college. I'm paying his tuition through the employee scholarship program I established. In 2 years he'll have his degree in hospitality management. Then I'm planning to promote him to assistant manager. Marcus looked ill. Jason has more ambition in his little finger than you've shown this entire evening, Marcus. He's building something. Bernie. Growing. Just like David will. Elena, please, Jennifer whispered. Can we just what? Move past this? Pretend it didn't happen? We're sorry, my mother said. Truly. I appreciate that. But apologies don't erase years of dismissiveness. The table fell silent again. Dessert menus were brought and ignored. Finally Tom spoke. What happens now? Now. You all finish your dinner. You celebrate Dad's birthday. And then you go home. And us? Jennifer asked quietly. Our relationship? I looked at my sister. At her husband. At my mother and brother and father. That's up to you. You can choose to actually see David and me for who we are, or you can continue with your assumptions. Either way we'll be fine. We want to do better, my father said. I want to do better. Then do better, Dad. All of you. Claire returned as we were finishing. I hope everything was satisfactory. It was excellent, Claire. As always. Wonderful. Should I bring the check to the table? Yes, please. When Claire returned with the leather folder, she placed it in front of Marcus. He opened it reflexively, then froze. The total was $3,847. Actually, Claire, I said, tonight's dinner is being billed to the individual guests. Separate checks, please. Claire smiled knowingly. Of course, Ms. Vega. I'll have those prepared immediately. Marcus's face went white. Jennifer grabbed his arm. Tom started to protest, then thought better of it. Elena, that's not necessary, my mother began. I think it is, Mom. You all ordered the most expensive items on the menu. You should pay for what you ordered. It's only fair. David closed his book and looked up at me. He was smiling slightly. Claire returned with separate checks. Marcus's portion was $847. Jennifer's was $723. The others were similarly expensive. This is ridiculous, Marcus muttered, pulling out his credit card. No, I said. This is accountability. They paid in silence. My father offered to cover David's and my meals, but I declined. Those were being comped anyway, though I didn't mention it. As we prepared to leave, I pulled Claire aside. The family scholarship fund I mentioned? Add another $50,000 to it. For employees like Jason. That's very generous, Ms. Vega. It's an investment in people who deserve it. In the parking lot, my family stood awkwardly by their cars. Jennifer approached me, eyes red. I really am sorry, Elena. I was horrible. Yes, you were. Can we try again? Better. I looked at David, who was watching the exchange quietly. He nodded slightly. We can try, I said. But things will be different now. I understand. As David and I drove home in our modest sedan, he finally spoke. You didn't have to defend me like that. Yes, I did. You're my son. I know you own the restaurant. I figured it out months ago when I saw the papers in your office. I glanced at him. You knew. I'm observant. You taught me that. He smiled. I also knew you'd handle it when the time was right. And was tonight the right time? Uncle Marcus pointing at Jason and saying that was my future? That was the right time. I reached over and squeezed his hand. Mom. Yes. Can we still get ice cream from that place by our apartment? The one you don't own. I laughed. Absolutely. We drove home through the quiet streets, leaving the expensive restaurant and its expensive lessons behind us. Tomorrow my family might call. They might apologize again. They might even mean it. But tonight, David and I would get ice cream from Mr. Kim's corner shop, go back to our apartment in the building I owned but they'd never valued, and be perfectly content with our supposedly limited lives. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people what you have. It's showing them what they failed to see.